Vach, Shua Tov. We are learning Mishnah's Nedarim, Parak Tes, Chapter 9, Mishnah Dala, Mishnah 4. V'oid Amar Rebbe Meir. And another thing that Rebbe Meir taught. Previous Mishnah began with Rebbe Meir, and now we have another statement from Rebbe Meir about a Pesach for Nedarim. Paischin loy min akasav Shabbat Torah. We can make a Pesach, we can make an opening for him from something that's written in the Torah. V'oimim loy, we say to him. So here Rebbe Meir is going to tell us, you can make a Pesach out of the fact that something is based on the fact that something is written in the Torah. And we say to him, Ilu hayisa yodeya shata'ivra aloi sikam aloi sitar. For you to know that you are transgressing by making this neder about that person, that he cannot benefit from you, if you would know that you are transgressing, do not take revenge, do not bear a grudge. Meaning, let's say the case is, the circumstances are, that, Reuven asked Shimon for a favor. Shimon said no. So what did Reuven say? He made a neder. Shimon can't have any benefit from him. Okay, that was the neder that he made, but it was a reaction to what Shimon didn't do for him. So if you make a neder in reaction for what Shimon didn't do for you, what's that called?
Bearing a grudge.
It's called bearing a grudge and taking revenge. So we say to the person, would you have known, basically, that the Torah forbids taking revenge and bearing a grudge? Would you have still made this neder? Now, this is something written in the Torah. But we say to the person, if you would have known that there is such a prohibition of the Torah, could be we're also saying to him if we would remind him that if you would have been thinking about that this is what you're doing now is a prohibition, or let's say you made a neder against a person because you don't like him. So we would say, so the Pesach would be, if you would have known that you are transgressing by making this neder because you dislike the person, do not hate your brother in your heart, and you're not fulfilling love your friend as yourself, would you have made that neder? Another example, if you would have known that the Torah says, "V'chei achicha imach," and your brother shall live with you, which means that if a person becomes poor, you have a mitzvah to support him. Maybe he's going to become poor, you're not going to be able to support him. Meaning, again, this person made a neder against someone, that person cannot have benefit from him. So we say to the Pesach would be, if you would have known that the Torah says that there's a mitzvah to support a person who's poor, and this person who you made the neder against could become poor. It happens. And you're not going to, and based on your neder, you're not going to be able to support him and fulfill this mitzvah. Would you have made this neder? The Amar, and now the person made the neder said, Ilo hayisa yodea shukain, or would have known so. Lo hayisi noideh, I would not have made the neder. Harei mutter. Now he is permitted to have, he is permitted to have benefit from him. These are valid openings. And the last case again is where, in all the cases, you say to the person, if you would have known that the Torah says all these things, and now based on your neder and the circumstances of your neder, you are either transgressing something or you won't be able to fulfill what the Torah wants from you. If he says, if I would have known that, I would never have made the neder, it's a good Pesach. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about a few things here. First of all, remember we had a Mishnah that said you cannot make a Pesach out of something noilad, something unexpected. You can't use it as an opening for a neder. Now, we're saying to this person, if you would have known that the Torah says that you should support your brother when he becomes poor, and maybe he'll become poor. Is becoming poor noilad? Is that expected? Is it unexpected? What is it?
Unexpected.
If it's unexpected, you can't use it as a Pesach. Mm-hmm. So they say, they bring down here, this is from the Yerushalmi, poverty occurs frequently and is not considered an unexpected change. Could be in those days it was not an unexpected change, and therefore it's not a problem of noilad. Okay, now so we have all these examples here about where we say to the person, we say, if you would have known this is written in the Torah, if you would have known that these things are written in the Torah and you are transgressing them, you're not going to be able to fulfill them. And he says, well, if I would have known, I never would have made the neder. So let's ask a question. In order for something to be a Pesach, you have to know that there's a choice for the person to say yes or no. And if we would know that he wouldn't say yes because he's too embarrassed to say yes, then we don't have a Pesach. That's why we said, if you say to a person, if you would have known that you're disappointing Hashem, or that if you would have known that you're sinning against Hashem for making a neder, as we mentioned previously, would you have made the neder? So he said that's not a good Pesach, because you think a person is going to say, even if I know I was going against Hashem, I would have made it anyway. Not going to say that. And if he's not going to say that, then you can't make a Pesach. A Pesach means he has to have a choice to say, right? I would have made the neder anyway, or I wouldn't have made the neder anyway. And we said before that kind of Pesach, that if you have known that you're going against that you're sinning against Hashem, would you have made the neder? So we said that's not a good Pesach, because the guy's not going to say I would have done it anyway. So over here we have a interesting kind of situation. Because we're telling the person, if you would have known that it says in the Torah, don't hate your brother, right? Would you have made the neder anyway? Is the person going to say, yeah? Is the person going to say, I would have done it anyway? And the Mishna is basically saying that a person would. And let me read to you from it. However, a person is not too embarrassed to admit that he has little regard for these commandments, because unfortunately, many people do not take them seriously. You know, you're speaking Lashon Hara. It's not Lashon Hara. Leave me alone. Oh, Lashon Hara. That's astringency. These kinds of, you're transgressing, hating your brother. People find reasons not to take these kinds of transgressions seriously. They don't take it seriously like they should. And therefore, would a person say, I would have done it anyway? Yeah. We assume that a person would have said that anyway. And or at least under let's call it regular circumstances, and therefore maybe there are cases where in an individual case we would say he wouldn't have done it. But the Mishna in general is saying that when it comes to these things about saying if you would have known this is forbidden in the Torah, would you have done it anyway? Well, it would seem that for these kinds of examples, at least these kinds of examples, which are examples of interaction between people don't take these things seriously enough, and they would say, I would have done it anyway. And if they could say they would have done it anyway, when they say that if they would have known they wouldn't have done it, that's a valid Pesach. So therefore, Reb Meir says that you could use a Pesach by saying to a person, if you would have known that what you're doing is going against what's written in the Torah, we've done it anyway. And if you said, no, I wouldn't have, it is a valid Pesach. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. What about we were talking about